Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bandhuratmatmanastasya janatmaivatmanachita anatmanastu satrutve vartetatmaiva satruvat. The translation. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. Purport. The purpose of practicing Eightfold Yoga is to control the mind in order to make it a friend in discharging the human mission. Unless the mind is controlled, the practice of yoga for show is simply a waste of time. One who cannot control his mind lives always with the greatest enemy, and thus his life and its mission are spoiled. The constitutional position of the living entity is to carry out the order of the superior. As long as one's mind remains an unconquered enemy, one has to serve the dictations of lust, anger, avarice, illusion, etc. But when the mind is conquered, one voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictation of the personality of Godhead, who is situated within the heart of everyone as Paramatma. Real yoga practice entails the meeting the Paramatma within the heart, and then following his dictation. For one who has taken Krishna consciousness directly, perfect surrender unto the dictation of the Lord follows automatically. Read the verse once again. Pandur atmatmanastasya yanatma vatmanachita anatmanastu satrutve vartetatmaiva satruvat. For one who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. Om Ajnana Timrandasya Chinanchana Shlake Saksharam Ritanye Natasmai Shigurave Namah Chitchetanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Svapalantikam Vandeham Shiro Shiyuda Padkamalam Shirum Vaishnavam Sa Shirupam Jagajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parjanachaitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sakalita Shivashakam Vitam Sha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jatpate Gopesha Kopka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanshna Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sutadevi Pranamama Haripriye Pancha Kalptar Vishya Kripa Sindhavasya Patnam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvashesha Sunyavadi Paskachaya Dasatarani Srila Prabhupada Ki. So many times when we chant the holy names of Krishna, then the mind dwells on something else while we are chanting. At least I have that problem. Am I the only one who has that problem? No? A few more. That why does that happen? The mind brings attachment and aversion. Yeah. It's based on the mind's demands or the mind's feelings and so on that are often a result of attachment and aversion. Krishna says in 334 of Bhagavad Gita, attachment and aversion are ragadvesha, are paripantina, are obstacles on the path of devotional service. So we want to give our love to Krishna, but the door is closed. The mind closes our door because it's absorbed in attachment and aversion, that you like this, we don't like that, and that reinforces our bodily consciousness, and the door to Krishna in the heart is closed. What is the importance of the mind? Srila Prabhupada explained in the purport, without the cooperation of the mind, without control of the mind, there is no question of yoga. Not possible. It's a farce. That Krishna said that before already in the 3rd chapter, and in later chapters also. One who externally performs service but internally fixes on sense gratification is a mithyachari, is a pretender. It's not a real thing. And Krishna, he stresses the importance of controlling the mind. He said in the previous verse that one can degrade himself by the mind or uplift oneself. That if the mind helps you for upliftment, it's your friend. If the mind helps you to become absorbed in this attachment and aversion, it's our enemy. So that's and this is a big obstacle, because the purpose of yoga is to come in contact with Krishna in the heart, that Prabhupada writes in the purport. And how that happens, that's explained in the next verse. Shitatmana prashantasya, that Paramatma Samayita. So if Shitatmana, Shita means conquering, if the mind is conquered, controlled, then it becomes Pashanatma, it becomes peaceful. And when the mind is peaceful, means no attachment and aversion, you come in contact with Krishna in the heart. So we must make the mind peaceful. That's not easy in this world. Every moment, everywhere, we have disturbing situations. So Krishna consciousness means becoming undisturbed in the most disturbing situations. And it's a big task. And Arjuna will bring that up in the 6th chapter further. He says, this Krishna, you say that I have to control this mind, but this mind is obnoxious, very stubborn, that I cannot control it. It's like trying to control the wind. So the wind, one goes outside and says to the wind, stop. It's not possible. Because we cannot stop the thinking, feeling, willing, and all the activities of the mind. It's not possible. It goes on. But the question is to control it. That Krishna's answer to Arjuna is, yes, Arjuna, you can control the mind, but with detachment and suitable practice. So Krishna says it's possible to do this impossible task. Now, how do we deal with the mind? That's a big question. In the mind comes this attachment and aversion. Do we just neglect the mind? If we just neglect the mind, it can become very sour, very difficult to live with such a mind. That's very difficult. If we accept everything of the mind, you become degraded. You are finished. That you come under control of an enemy. So what's the middle ground? How Krishna has explained at the end of the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, to control the mind. He says, the problem is lust. Lust covers our intelligence and is in the mind, in the senses, in the intelligence. And how to control the mind is, you must control the mind by regulation. And the regulation, you have many regulations in the Vedas. In 334, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that this attachment and aversion, yes, one must control that, regulate that. Regulation for sex life is marriage. But a man may also feel attraction for other women, Prabhupada says. But that attraction should be curbed. Also from women to men. That should be curbed, that attraction. But keep it under control. So it is regulation. But to adopt this regulation, the first thing to control the mind is that one must avoid that it becomes uncontrolled. An uncontrollable mind is a mind which is completely under the influence of lust. And that is a fact. Because the effect of lust on the mind makes you becoming absorbed in this attachment and aversion. The mind says, I like what gives pleasure to the senses and the mind. I don't want what gives me displeasure, what gives me pain. I don't like that. So, like, dislike. And what is the result? It enforces, it makes your identification with the body stronger. Because this like and dislike is for the body. Pleasures and pains. Pains we avoid, the pleasure we want. And for many that's the goal of life. That is, they become slaves of the mind. So, to control the mind, you must know that you are not the mind. That's the first thing. But you even may know it, but you need the strength not to identify with the mind. What is this strength? It's spiritual strength, sadhana. If one chants once round, tries to chant with attention, and as a sadhana in devotional service, then one gets strength not to identify with the mind. If one does not follow the four regulative principles, you will identify with the mind. That no way that the mind becomes too strong. But you need spiritual strength to control the mind. So therefore Krishna says to Arjuna, how to control the mind? You must know that the object of the senses, higher are the senses. Higher than the senses is the mind controls the senses. And higher than the mind is the intelligence. Intelligence must control the mind. And higher than the intelligence is the soul. The soul must control the intelligence. The soul pushes the intelligence with attachment. Now, how to control the mind? That with intelligence, but Krishna says with transcendental intelligence, transcendental knowledge. Transcendental knowledge means to act as a spirit soul, not as the body. That's transcendent. How to act as a soul, not as the body. It means we have also spiritual attachment and aversion. We must learn to become attached what's beneficial for the soul and averse or dislike what's going to degrade the soul. And that's explained, the basics of that is explained in Nectar of Instruction. Atyara payashasya prajalpa niyamaga jana saral sanga salonyamsa sadbir bhaktir vinashati. 6 things that degrade, which is degrading the soul, which is 6 things that are against devotional service, which is the natural activity of the spirit soul. If you don't follow these 6 activities, you will not be able to control the mind. It's not possible. Atyahara means eating too much. Prayas, atyara prayasya, endeavor for things that are very difficult to obtain in this world. Prajalpa, speaking with others about sense gratification. Niyamaga, not following the 4 relative principles and not chanting. Or chanting sometimes not. Sometimes follow, sometimes that will not help. That jhana sanga salolyamna, associating with those whose goal of life is sense gratification. So these are things we must dislike, otherwise the control of the mind will not come. And 6 things we must do. That utsa nisya daryat tatat karma pavartanat. Jhana, that satovritin, that sadbhir bhaktir prashidati. 6 things favorable for devotional service. Jhana sanga satovrite, that it means one must be enthusiastic, endeavor with confidence, be patient, and chant the holy name of Krishna, hear the Bhagavatam, engage in devotional service. And that will help to control the mind. So one must always be aware of what's favorable for controlling the mind, what's unfavorable. Unfavorable things will contaminate the mind again and make it uncontrolled. We have to stop that. And the favorable will spiritualize the mind and remove the attachment and aversion. So these are basic principles. But most people in this world, they are guided by the mind. And that's a path of great, great suffering. They see things in this world and they become attached. And dayate vishyapum san sanga stesa bachayate sanga sayate kama kama krodha vijayate. They become attracted and then they want to enjoy, and this lust develops in their mind. And they have expectations. But then the reality comes, it's not really what expected. Frustration, bewildering of memory, one becomes angry, loses one's intelligence. So that is the mind overwhelming the intelligence. And that's a very dangerous situation. Factually, as a spirit soul, we are now under control, or we are thinking we are under control of the material nature. Material nature is inferior nature. We as spirit soul are superior. Is it good to be under control of something inferior? No. It leads to this disastrous situation. But the soul has the potency to transcend these material modes, to connect with Krishna. We have that potency, but we have forgotten. Like Hanuman. Hanuman had great powers. He wanted to eat the sun. But of course, that would have been a cosmic disaster. But King Indra gave him a slap, and he forgot his powers. We have also forgot our powers. We have the power to transcend these modes of material nature. That is in us. But that knowledge, avitam jnanam etina, is covered because our mind is the greatest enemy. And to live with an enemy, is that good? No. So we have to make the mind our friend. So that is, if we understand that principle, then we can also understand from Bhagavad Gita what's the difference really between one with a controlled mind and one with an uncontrolled mind. So the first condition is that we are not a mind. The mind is an instrument we are using. And an instrument you always use. As if the instrument becomes to use yourself, that's not good. That's not good. That's going to be wrong. We must always use the intelligence. Use the mind through the intelligence. Engage the mind always in devotional service. And that's an important principle. When I traveled with Prahlad Nandamaharaj, he gave always that example of a man at the bottle. And in the bottle was a jinn, a kind of spirit. He opened the bottle and the jinn came out and said, "I'm your servant. I will do everything you order me, but if you don't order me and engage me, I will kill you." And the man said, "Clean the kitchen." And the Jim was cleaning the kitchen, and then afterwards he was saying, clean the bathroom. He was thinking, if he has done all the rooms, what am I going to say? When he had finished all the rooms, he said to the spirit, now you go outside, you see this tree, you climb on top of the tree. When you come at the top of the tree, you jump to the next tree, come down again. And then you go to the next tree, you go again to the top, jump to the next one, come down again. And like this you do all the trees in the forest. And when it's finished, you start again. And like that they got rid of it. But it is like that. Children are very calm when they are busy with something. If they are not busy with something, they will engage in mischievous activities. The mind is like that. We must engage it in Krishna's service constantly. Don't think even for a moment, let's go with the feelings. No. Many times we see that the mind takes over. Krishna says also, like, you must regulate your life. And that balance is very important to control the mind. If you are out of balance, you have issues with the mind. Krishna says, don't eat too much, not too less. If you eat too much, you get problems with the mind. Becomes too attached to sense gratification. If you eat too less, you get problems with the mind. You can't sleep, you can't get deep sleep, and so many issues come. So, not eating too much, not too less, Krishna says. Not always under tension, some also recreation in Krishna consciousness. But we must have balance. The mind has its likes, and sometimes you must do in Krishna consciousness what you like. Otherwise, if that balance is not there, it becomes very dangerous. So, therefore, like eating, Ayurveda says you can eat what you can keep in your 2 hands in one time. That's what your stomach can digest. If you eat more, the body will create toxins. And these toxins, they will set down somewhere in the body. Where at the weakest point, and create disease. So what you can hold in your 2 hands, and be sure the hands of Bhima were different from those from Draupadi. They were different hands, different stomach. We are not the same, but from what you can keep in your hands in the morning, you can eat up to 60%. At noontime, about 80%, 90%, and in the evening, 10 to 20%. That's what Ayurveda says. Because many times, I have a friend, and he's now over 70, a little older than me, and his entire life has been overweight, obesity, too much eating. Because in his youth, they told him, you have to eat to become strong, and so he was eating 3 meals a day, and it became very fat. But now, since he became a devotee, the last 30 years it changed drastically. He understood that because he gets older and he has no energy anymore. Finished, no energy. But then that we worked together, and now he came from 3 meals to 2, and then from 2 to 1. And now he said he lost many kilos, and he said, now I get strength. So that's the mind tells you, you have to eat to get strength. No, Ayurveda says you have to eat what you can digest, that gives strength. If you eat more, it will take energy from you. So these are important principles. But the mind tells you, yeah, no, you have to eat. So the hunger comes up, and the mind jumps on it. You have to eat to get. You are going to feel bad. That like on a callousy, you fast, and you start to get a headache, and the mind says, "See what's happened? That it's bad." But no, you get a headache means that all the toxins you start to become purified, and these toxins comes in the blood, and you get headache, but it will go away. But the mind said, no, you have to eat. And there is your chance for purification goes. The mind takes over. So we have to be very careful with the mind. Always use discrimination based on the scriptures. And that will change our lives. If we continue to be the slaves of the mind, then there is no end of suffering. But the mind, so we have to be very careful. We need that balance, and always engaging in devotional service. So this is very important, that because we chant and we want to concentrate our consciousness on Krishna. You have the soul, you have the subtle body and the gross body. And the mind, the subtle body, the mind, is the channel through which our conscience flows. Through which our consciousness flows, and to which we become conscious from the external world, the inner world. But it's to understand the mind and its functioning, that we need to understand the dynamics of the mind. And deeply understand the situation of a Krishna conscious person, or a liberated person, of one who is on the path of liberation, of the path, and all the other people in the world. And Krishna explains that at the end of the second chapter. He says introspective sage, for what is night for him is daytime for the conditioned soul. And what's night for the conditioned soul is daytime for the introspective sage. That a devotee lives in goodness. That in 94, I was in a Namhata center in Ghent, in Flanders, in Belgium. But we were in the ashram, we were with two, and we were getting up at 3:45 in the morning. It was summertime. We were in the middle of the city, summertime we open the window. At the other side of the street is a nightclub, and they opened the door. So, and the door was open of the nightclub, and a lot of smoke came out. And then people came out who were not walking very straight. So for them, their night was over, that they were going to sleep, and we get up. So a different lifestyle. To control the mind, one must be in goodness. What's the problem with the mind? Passion and ignorance. Passion, lust. So we have to be careful to always live in goodness. Means very clean. Keep everything very clean, and the cleanliness next to godliness, and also clean externally, but clean internally also. Therefore we have to chant the holy names to keep it clean, the mind, to purify the mind. So that's internal cleanliness, external cleanliness. Goodness is important. Goodness means I don't act with attachment. But that Krishna shows here in tune 69 what's the external difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. But in the next verse, it goes into the internal. And to understand the internal, we need to understand the dynamics of the mind. And Krishna says in this verse, as rivers enter into the ocean is not disturbed by the rivers entering into it. In the same way, a devotee, that desires pop up into his mind, that is not disturbed by these desires. So where do desires come from? How do they come into the mind? Usually there are various factors here. First, if you are in an environment where they do sinful activities and sense gratification, just by the environment, the mind can be influenced. That's one kind of influence of the mind. Another way that desires come to us is the soul who desires directly. But even if the soul desires directly, the desire of the soul pops up into the mind, because it's a super soul who brings it into the mind. The super soul. We have, because we are connected with the external energy, we lost our inner awareness, our spiritual awareness. So we become aware of our desires through the medium of the mind. And it is the super soul who brings it into our mind. That's the second cause of why desires pop up into the mind. But a more often cause goes back to our previous lives. In our previous lives, we have got so many desires, material desires. And what is the characteristic of a material desire? Krishna says, Duspurana Nalenacha, dat avitam gyanam etna, gyanina nityavarana, kamarupena kantya duspurana nalenacha. Krishna says, you will never get satisfaction. They did surveys for billionaires. They had all $1 billion. They asked, what do you want? They all said the same thing, I want $2 billion. It's never, there's never ending. So by that material desires are never fulfilled. So they are still there. So, and they, if we take rebirth, in the subtle body they are carried with us in the form of samskaras, impressions. Mm-hmm. But we have forgotten what we desired in previous life. But Krishna did not. He's in our heart. And he knows he had this material desires in his previous life. I will take that desire from his subconsciousness, and it pops up again in the mind. Now, there are two possibilities. First, the devotee. The devotee, by spiritual practice, is able to distinguish himself from the mind. I'm not the mind. And he becomes the observer. We have to learn to observe the mind, what's going on. And then with the intelligence, take the right decision. That's how we control the mind. We observe and we take the right decision. Do nothing that overhauls your entire balance of your mind. Like engaging in sinful activities, then you are lost. You cannot do that. So the devotee sees that desire, he looks at the desire, what kind of desire is that? Oh yeah, the devotee said, that's a material desire. Krishna says about material desires. I som speciaboga, du kan ju evigt att jag inte fann till kantia, nati shura matebukta. The learned men have concluded that if one engages in sense gratification, fulfilling material desires, the result is suffering. So the devotee, he sees that material desire, I don't want it, I'm going to suffer. Forget it. And what happens with the desire? It disappears forever. But the conditioned soul is different. They identify very strongly with the mind, and then the material desires comes up, and they think, yes, good idea. And this time it will work out. But it never works out. It prolongs their imprisonment. But that's the difference, how a devotee deals with the mind and a non-devotee. And by that is the process of our purification. All these things come up, but we say, no, I don't want it. We tell the mind we are engaging in devotional service, that's what we are going to do. And you train the mind in devotional service. But train the mind in such a way that, because we have all our material nature, likes and dislikes material nature, that according to our capacities, what we are good in, mostly that's what we like to do, what we are good in. Therefore, it's very important that you engage the mind from a material platform, what you like. And that will purify us. And that will give satisfaction materially to the mind and spiritually. And that art we must learn. Very important to learn that art. When Prabhupada was in London, a devotee came to Prabhupada and said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, ask me anything, I will do it for you. And Prabhupada said, what do you want to do for Krishna? And the devotee said, Prabhupada, it doesn't matter. Ask me just what you want to do, what you want me to do, I will do it. And then Prabhupada became more grave and said, try to understand our philosophy. What do you want to do for Krishna? And the devotee said, Prabhupada, I want to make unbreakable mridangos. And Prabhupada said, yes, do that for Krishna. And he made his first fiberglass mridangos, which we are still using in some parts. So this is a very important aspect, that we engage the mind according to the nature of the mind, likes and dislikes. On the level we can engage it. We cannot engage in sinful activities. The mind may be attracted to sinful activities, but that's we cannot do. That's just that, because if the mind comes up with these tendencies, we must put a blockage and engage in spiritual activities. That cannot be. There are borders, and we have to work with the mind within these borders. And if we understand that balance and how to deal with the mind in devotional service, we will have materially a satisfactory life, materially and spiritually a fulfilling life. And Galdi will become purified. And when we become purified, then we can do anything for Krishna. Because then we are directly in contact with the super soul when the mind is purified. The more we become purified, the deeper we can absorb in Krishna. And when we, in deep absorption, think of Radha Krishna in the service, we feel satisfied. We feel the love. Because that's what we want, love. And this mind is with an enemy. It's an obstruction to get to this real love. So this, of course, the mind is a big subject. I just try to put forward the main principles that how to deal with the mind. It is so important, because otherwise the mind will deal with us, and that's not so good. The mind is an instrument we use in Krishna's service. That if the mind starts to use us and control us, that's insanity, madness. This means that only the devotees, advanced devotees, have sanity in mind. Non-devotees cannot have, because they are, to some degree, they are always under degree. To some degree, they are under the control of the mind. Prabhupada went for a court case in Calcutta for a little thing for his business, but at the same time there was a murder case going on. There was a doctor who had chloroformed an assistant, and then cut his body in pieces and put it outside with the garbage. Anyway, the police found out. But the judge was asking a psychiatrist, to what extent is this man responsible for his action? Is he diseased in the mind? Is he a madman or not? And the response of the psychiatrist, quoted by Prabhupada, was, in my opinion, everyone in this world is more or less mad, he said. And that's true. Because when we identify with the mind, we are madmen, that's all. And so that this is important. If we engage the mind, so the powerful liberation, Krishna says, get transcendental knowledge, and with that knowledge, the soul becomes attached to it and pushes the intelligence to instruct the mind and senses to act according to this knowledge, and act as a spirit soul, act as a servant of Krishna. And that's the path of liberation. And this transcendental knowledge is devotional service. Because by devotional service we become a Mahatma. Mahatmas tu Mamparta Devim Pragati Ashvita. A Mahatma is someone who knows how to connect with the spiritual nature. And that is done by Satatam Kirtayantamam Yatanta Shatitavata, always chanting the glories of the Lord. Because chanting the glories means chanting the holy name, but also chanting the Bhagavatam. And understand by that we understand who Krishna is and who we are and what our relationship is. So that helps us to connect with Krishna. That's our natural situation of being always connected with Krishna. When Prabhupada was at 26 2nd Avenue, there was a Sunday feast, and one devotee was telling to a guest, "Oh, my spiritual master has written this book on inspiration of Krishna of the super soul from within the heart." And Prabhupada said, "No, Krishna directly dictated me these books. These are not my books." Prabhupada sometimes would read his own books, and he said to Shrutakirta Prabhu, "Who reads his own books? No one." But he was reading his own books, because he said, "These are not my books. These are the words of Krishna." So he followed the dictations of Krishna from within. And the more we become purified, the more Krishna we will feel these dictations. That in the conditioned soul even we have these dictations. If a mother serves the child by serving without wanting something in return, it gives some good feeling. Is Krishna giving this feeling? If you do sinful activities, then you feel bad afterwards. And that's Krishna giving from the heart. But when we become devotees, then it becomes very clear. But even if our minds are still clouded, and we don't understand what Krishna is saying from within our heart, that Krishna within the heart says the same thing as in Bhagavad Gita in the Bhagavatam. So, by following Prabhupada's instructions, we follow the dictation of the Super Soul, and that will purify us. I hope that helps. Any question, comments? Yes?
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the class. So my question comes from the about the desire. So we live in the environment where we inevitably have to, be associated with non-devotees, and we, are influenced by their values, their desires, things that are considered fancy and attractive. So we cannot just stay avoid from those influences. So when we are in this influence, so we sometimes crave for some things that we like for example, I'll give an example of a car, right? So we can, one can just buy a functional car, just basic, but one might desire a nice car with some fancy features or luxury or something like this, which is not necessary. It's just sense gratification, obviously, but that desire is, you see this car on the streets, other people, let's say, have this car, or they share how they like this, and then you try, and you continuously think about this. So then the question is, to what extent, or if at all, this concept can be applied, such as in order to stop craving for something, get rid of your mind, is you actually get this car, for example, get this item, eventually you will, not see that as anything special, but it will just become a mundane item, and that nothing is in there, and then you're over it, right? So then you that thinking of, oh yeah, I want this, stops, right? And then you've tried that, and then That's it. I'm peaceful now. I don't think about this anymore. So to what extent can this philosophy be applied?
In 94, I was an accountant and a tax consultant at that time. And when I joined the movement, my Guru Maharaj instructed me, because they needed someone in Radhadesh to overlook the accounts and do the tax defense and so on. He instructed me that you become a chartered accountant. Means I had to go to school again, and I had to do a proof period in an accountancy office. But at that time, I had great attachment to driving big cars, and I had a BMW. And okay, yes. But I tried to follow that, and for that I had to drive 3 times a week from Radhadesh to Antwerp and back. It's about like 300 kilometers, 350 kilometers, 3 times a week. That's a lot of. And I did that for 18 months. Just following the order of my Guru Maharaj. Well, after 18 months I didn't want to drive a car anymore. So you use it in Krishna's service, and gradually your attachment will go. And that is the way to do that. But of course, yeah, we have to be careful. But if the mind is strongly contaminated, that we have to seek always balance. You want a bigger car, don't buy the biggest, because you have to take a loan, you have to become a slave. Simplify your life and use it in Krishna's service. There's no point not to get what you need for your work and so on. In relation with association with materialistic people at your work, prepare yourself. You take always nice prasadam with you, that you certainly not have to eat what they eat, that try to give your association, not to take their association. Give them prasadam, don't accept things. It's not easy, but yeah, you have to protect your consciousness. If they talk about things we are not interested, keep a polite distance, focus on your work, and sometimes it may create very challenging situations. But that's also Krishna. Krishna is looking how serious we are, and how we will deal with it. That's part of our training. But anyway, we will become purified if we continue on the path, but be very careful with the mind, that don't let your mind dwell on things. You chant, no fun. That's not good. That's your private time with Krishna. And in the morning, if you chant nicely with attention, it gives you power during the day to withstand, to overcome all these temptations. You will get the spiritual power from nicely chanting in the morning. That I know a devotee from Australia. This was 20 years ago, and he said to me, he was a CEO of an international software company, a big company. He was saying, I'm chanting with great attention my rounds in the morning. That's my priority. And that gives me the power to discriminate what is important, what is not important. And during the day, I'm only doing what's important. And by that, I'm saving time. He's saving time by chanting. So this is, we also during our work we get challenges. It are opportunities to take shelter of Krishna. And Krishna will help us to overcome them. That they will see, people will start to appreciate this person is of good character, is a person who we can trust, and so on. I know was a Gurukuli in Mayapur. He was raised in Mayapur, and then his parents brought him back to Los Angeles or something in America, and he was searching for a job, but he had no diplomas, certificates or whatever. And he tried to get a job at a security company as a guard. And he asked them what qualifications that he had. He said, "I've not much qualifications. I've only cultivated a good character." And based on that, they accepted him. That he got a job. Interesting. So Krishna always helps. Anything else? Yes.
I wanted to hear, if possible, your opinion on the fact that, I was thinking about this, that yes, if we treat the mind, well, first of all, we are not the mind, right? We're soul, and then we try to deal with mind in one way or another way. To me, it looks like, or it looked like, that we're trying to take more of a control, be as someone who does act. At certain point of time, the thought that, okay, well, in this relationship between us as a soul and our minds, there is also Krishna, and he manifests himself as a mercy. And that thought sort of enlightened me and provided a little bit of more enthusiasm in a way that I thought, well, okay, even if I'm not able to completely control my mind now, I still rely on Krishna's mercy. And it played a huge part in my personal attitude or approach, let's say. Do you think there is a place in these relationships between us and our mind to the mercy? Is there hope that even if we cannot 100% control our mind, there still will be a chance that Krishna sees and says that, okay, well, this guy tried.
Without Krishna's mercy, we cannot control the mind. It's not possible. But there are a few things here. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that when the mind wanders, you have to bring it back. So we have to do our part and try to control the mind as much as possible. Always bring it back to Krishna when it wanders during the chanting. Bring it back. But sometimes it can become a whole fight, and your chanting becomes a fight of bringing back the mind every time. And it becomes very difficult. But there is a way to control the mind in a much easier way. And that easier way is that you put in your chanting all your affection and love. Put your chanting in. And then the control will become more easy. We may not have transcendental love, but at least we have affection. It may look material, but we give it to Krishna. All our affection put in the chanting. Therefore, someone asked my Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Charamaj, what does it mean? What does it mean chanting Hare Krishna? And his answer was, chanting Hare Krishna means saying to Krishna, I love you. So we may not forget that, trying to give our love to Krishna. And that will help us to overcome the mind in the chanting. Because that's what Krishna wants, our love, our affection, and that attracts his mercy. But without Krishna's mercy, we cannot do anything. But the mercy of Krishna comes by pleasing the spiritual master. And the spiritual master says, you should chant Hare Krishna, avoid the 10 offenses. We should do our best to behave nice with the devotees, trying really to follow the instructions of the spiritual master. That attracts Krishna's mercy. And take association of advanced devotees on a regular basis. That will attract mercy. So the mercy comes to the Guru Parampara, the spiritual master and the devotees. Association of devotees makes everything different. If you chant alone, without association of devotees, comes very difficult, the mind. But when you chant in association of devotees, it becomes easy. That everyone has that experience. My Guru Maharaj said, you have one stick, easy to break, but many sticks you cannot break. When we are together, Maya cannot get us. But when we are alone, dangerous situation, difficult. So association of devotees is very important. Helps us to control the mind. At least associations of devotees who are engaged in devotional service. Does that help? Something else? Good. Thank you. I hope this was helpful, and thank you for engaging me. Jai Prabhupada.